never make my parents' mistakes. But we got bills to pay.
Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of hell.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UENradio.com.
Hey,
welcome to On the Fringe Radio. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
everybody.
everybody. That's very kind of you. My name is Antoinette Perigine.
And I'm Joe Tabinello.
And what is today's date? Today is the 8th of May, and
8th
it's
of
11
May.
a.m. in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. And as you know, it's 2 p.m. in New York City and 8 p.m. in Rome. And it's 5:45 a.m. in Australia the next day. Wow, we have had quite... I think we should start off by saying we've had quite a reaction to our last show, which was...
People digging
extraterrestrials.
aliens.
Yeah, we had an amazing response, and so many people got in touch with us and had so many of their own experiences. So I was talking to Joe about perhaps doing a show just on that, and then having people call in. People sent us pictures of orbs, amazing stuff. So I think we should totally do that. And we have started our own search, and in fact, our guests on the show today, I stumbled upon because I started to in some of the emails that we got, people mentioned different star systems, and they mentioned Sirius B. So I was like, wow, what's that? So of course I went and started Googling Sirius B, and I came up with this video.
When you say Sirius B, the star system, that's
There's a
where
Sirius-
aliens are from. Some of the aliens are from.
That's what they say. They say that there are aliens. Let's call them extraterrestrials, because aliens
Yeah, that's
sounds...
the PC. They get
they get
pissed.
upset with
Yeah,
that.
they don't like
It's
the-
just not right.
Yeah.
Apparently that there are...
Usually
there
the
are-
people who shoot at them call them aliens, right?
Exactly.
And the ones who want them to come here and be our friends
call them ETs.
ETs. Okay, I got that.
But apparently there are star systems, many star systems, and a Sirius B is a binary star system. So there are
Oh.
two stars, Sirius A and Sirius B, and I really just learned all about this. But I was sort of researching that online, and I saw this video on YouTube which said Sirius B, tall blue beings.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah.
And I started listening to this dialogue that Dr. Mitchell Gibson was having with this woman, and it was compelling to me because this woman was getting her feelings validated and her experiences validated by Dr. Gibson about the assistance that the planet is getting and has been getting for a very long time. And Dr. Gibson talked about how these beings have been involved in the planet for ages and ages, and he is aware of them. So that really kind of got me going, and now we've been living with Dr. Mitchell Gibson and Kathy Gibson for the last 48 hours. I feel like we know them intimately. So they're going to be on the show in about 15 minutes. But anyway, so I just think it would be a great thing to do. I find this topic, the more you get involved with the topic and the more you research it, you realize that there is a lot of information, and there are a lot of credible people in the government and otherwise talking about their experiences, and lots of stuff being declassified. So, and I'm intrigued with it. I really am. I never was, but then all of a sudden now, the more you look, the more you find, the more you find, the more you look, and it just sort of keeps going. And I'm going to ride it through until they actually appear on the news. That's what I'm going to do. But anyway, I wanted to start off our show with some news topics that are happening.
Okay, cool.
Joey, you were very into it this morning. I noticed you were up very early.
Well, I just
and
I'm
I heard,
very interested in talking to them both because there's a lot of interesting stuff we're going to get into with them. This guy is pretty amazing. We're going to go through his bio in a minute.
Yeah, I mean,
she
both of them
seems
sound
pretty
amazing
dynamic as well. And so I'm actually thinking of maybe going to their workshop in New York. So
something in my mouth.
That's great. I'm sure that's good.
I'm sure everybody
information.
wants to know that. That's why I'm making these funny faces. Anyway, yeah, so we'll have them on the show. They're going to Skype in from one of the Carolinas. I believe it's North Carolina, but it could be South Carolina. Anyway, here is the first story. This comes from the Huffington Post. One of the most amazing, inspiring museums a lot of people will never, sadly, get to visit is the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad. It has collections that include art and artifacts from ancient Sumerian, Babylonian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Chaldean civilizations. Basically, there's some old ancient shiz in there. And amongst the old ancient art are some jars with some really weird, unexplained figures on them. I, the visitor, found some pottery in a back room in the museum. Due to some looting and the place being a general mess, the jar was marked 4,000 to 6,000 BC. And they left it at that. Now, I know that artwork roughly. Right. Now, I know that artwork back
Some old
then,
stuff was written on the back.
then
of it.
wasn't exactly realistic, but seriously, what the F? They drew what they knew, and this does not look human. I don't care what Bubba says. I'm reading the article from the Huffington Post. Let's look closely at the figure. Do you have a picture of it?
Yes, it's up. It's been up.
Okay. Large bulging eyes. Check. Weird wiggly arms. Check. No hair. Check. Check on that?
Maybe it's just an artist. Bad artist. Check.
More
Trying to draw their father.
Wait, is it more than 5?
Maybe it's a 4-year-old trying to sculpt their father.
And how many years later now we're convinced that it's ancient alien life?
No, and the bald is check. Go ahead.
Okay,
we'll
bald is
keep
check.
going with this.
No lips? Check.
No lips.
Weird
You're right.
elongated body.
That's interesting. No lips at all. Check. Elongated body. You can only see from the waist up.
Uh-huh.
Oh, on the other picture, yeah, pretty long.
Therefore, can we surmise altogether that the figure is an alien?
You know what you sound like?
What?
when
I
we
sound
watch
crazy?
You know what I love? Ancient Aliens.
I love that show.
Because I'm all for this, but every once in a while you hear somebody say, "We found an artifact of George Washington pointing up to the sky at a time where Sirius would have been in the north sky." Now, what are the odds of his finger pointing up during that time?
No.
It only concludes one thing. That he was pointing to aliens.
He was pointing towards his home. Clearly.
Clearly. No, but this is different. This is really cool.
This looks really cool.
4,000 to 6,000 years old?
That's 4,000 to 6,000 BC.
I mean, for BC, 8,000 years old. Wow.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
Cool. So they've been here for a while, huh?
Yes. Yes. So I thought that was really interesting. And that came out on the Huffington Post, I believe, yesterday. And I'm also looking for the other news story. Bear with me. It's a new tablet that I
paintings,
have.
George Washington's hand was never pointing up. It was only on this day where Sirius, the star system, would have been in the north sky that they found him pointing
it's
up.
so not
What are
true.
the odds of that? I think it's funny because they discredit everyone who's done really great science on it.
Yeah.
And they make everybody look like they're reaching for.
Well, it's, you know what, for the most part, I have to say, you have to really keep your critical mind in place because, so much of
And the
it is so
microphone in
compelling.
place,
And also
clearly.
that. Do you want to hear the second story?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the second story. Florida airline pilot spots UFO at a Springsteen concert. Yep.
Really?
A Florida airline pilot who was outside with family in Sunrise exiting a Bruce Springsteen concert reported watching a large pulsating bright white light that changed shape and color and conducted maneuvers in the sky before moving away at tremendous speed, according to May 3rd, 2014 testimony in case 55981 from the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. Witness reporting in the database. The witness identified himself as a current airline pilot with 34 years of experience based in Fort Lauderdale who is familiar with air traffic for the local area. Springsteen was in concert April 29, 2014. I just love that it's Springsteen. Because he's so powerful, and I feel like he's not from here. At a BB&C center in Sunrise, the witness was exiting the concert about 11:25 p.m. on April 29th. I know where airplanes should be, and I know where they should not be, is what the airline pilot said. If they have no intention of landing in KFLL on runway 10L, the witness stated, this object I saw was obviously not landing on 10L and should not have been in the final approach corridor. The witness noticed the other people in the crowd were looking at the object as well. As we were coming out the front doors with thousands of fans, I noticed a group of people pointing and staring in the southern sky. I looked up to see what they were watching and saw the following. An extremely bright pulsating round white light appeared to be slowly moving north toward the arena. The object then began to pulsate and seemed to change shape.
Was it in the same synchronization as Born in the USA?
It doesn't say.
Maybe they
It
were
doesn't say
enjoying
that,
the
dear.
concert.
It
Wow,
started
that's really
pulsating
cool.
from bright white to pulsating blue and red and then back to blue. It slowed and I thought it had begun a turn to the east to set up for landing, but it appeared to stop in midair. The bright light then changed to a star pattern-like design, but the best I can describe it is it appeared to be like a bright blue asterisks, just like this. At least 3, maybe 4, but I believe 3 crossed lines of bright blue crossed lines, steady and not moving. They were stationary. The witness tried to dismiss the light as a known object. Before the asterisk, I don't know why I can't say that. Before the asterisk design appeared, I kept trying to dismiss this event at first. A jet aircraft inbound to KFLL from the south, but no noise could be heard and the landing lights were too bright for a jet. Then when it appeared to stop in midair, I figured it had to be a helicopter, but still no noise. Then when the star pattern appeared, I assumed maybe it to be a helicopter with advertising on the skids, but no written message or ad appeared, just the bright star design. The object then changed again before quickly flying away. Seconds later, the image had disappeared, but a small white orb stayed. And how many times do you see that? That they stay behind or they eject something from the ship or something. I don't know. It then made 2 or 3 extremely fast zigzag flight maneuvers that I had never seen any worldly flying aircraft make. So that's an airline pilot saying that.
With all the evidence now, anyone who thinks that this is not real, if you really do your research and you see how many credible witnesses have come through, like that video we were watching today of like defense
all of those
experts and
Clifford Stone and all of those ex-military personnel, that guy
amazing.
has had actual contact, and he says that the government has documented 57 different species of extraterrestrial life. I mean, I try to stay very balanced about it.
How cool would it be if it actually happens? Like we finally accept, know, and live with this reality that apparently they're living among us.
And then Clifford Stone says that so many of them are humanoid, and you really wouldn't know the difference. You could look closely and see that there's a difference, or you could feel a difference, but they're completely humanoid. It's fascinating. I'm completely and utterly
so bizarre, but
fascinated
yet
by it.
the witnesses and the people who are testifying about this would lose their license if they were proven wrong. If it was a hoax, they would lose everything.
That's
and they
right.
haven't lost everything, and they have the evidence to testify and to prove that what they experienced or what they saw was real. And it makes you go, wait a minute.
It's exciting, isn't it?
That's why I'm excited to have our next guests on.
I know. I'm very excited too.
Yeah.
They sound really, really cool and do a lot of different things. I mean, they're out there traveling all over the world, and they do seminars, and I'd like to read a little bit about them if you think that that's a good thing to do. There's a bio on him that is pretty outstanding, so I just wanted to read that. You can go ahead and fill in, Joe. You could talk a little bit.
Well, his book, first of all, the book, was it written by both of them? I'm sorry.
Dr.
forgive us.
Gibson, Mitchell Gibson, wrote the book.
Okay. The First Darkness, that is just the title alone, The First Darkness. I'm dying to hear
know.
what that's about. There's an angel in the background here. and I'm very curious because he's calling you now. Let's get him on.
Oh, yay!
You want to read his?
I would love to. Are they on?
Well, we're going to put him on right now. And hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
Dr. Gibson.
How
Hi,
are you?
Kathy.
Hi,
How
Kathy.
are you?
Hi.
We're so excited to have you on. I feel like I know you.
We're excited to be on.
You were a little bit too involved in our lives last night. You were in our bed.
I
Both
was
of you
just
were in
like-
our bed. We had a foursome last night, reading your stuff and looking at your stuff.
I wanted just to tell our guests, I wanted to tell our viewers a little bit about you both, if that's okay. I mean, I could have you guys talk about it, but I mean, some of your, both of you just have done so much and have been doing this for so long. It's very inspiring. So if it's okay with you, Dr. Gibson, I'd just like to read a little bit about you.
Right, that's okay with me.
All right. Dr. Mitchell Gibson is a board-certified forensic psychiatrist, writer, artist, software developer, public speaker, and spiritual teacher. Dr. Gibson received his medical degree at the age of 25.
Wow.
Wow. I was hanging out on the street corner in Brooklyn at 25.
I
Not
was,
smoking.
I was learning
not
how to
smoking.
spell medical at 25.
But you did good, honey. You
I did very good.
Honey, you made something of yourself.
I did very
You really
good.
did.
I learned medical stuff.
You can say it now. That's really good.
S-T-U-F.
Okay. Wait, he got his medical degree at the age of 25 from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He then completed the residency training at the Albert Einstein Medical Center in Philadelphia during his last year of residency. He served as chief resident in psychiatry and received the Albert Einstein Foundation Research Award for his work in sleep disorders.
Wow.
Wow.
I want to talk to you. We're going
I
to
know.
be talking off the air a lot.
My husband's going to be calling you. He's going to be stalking you, Dr. Gibson, because he has a lot of clients that have sleep disorders, right?
Yeah,
You do that a
sure.
lot. Anyway, Dr. Gibson has also been listed among the top doctors in Arizona in Phoenix magazine on several occasions. He has also 3 times been named to the Woodward and White listing of the best doctors in America. Wow. He is a diplomat of the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology, the American College of Forensic Medicine, and the American Board of Forensic Examiners. He is currently a public speaker and spiritual teacher and lives with his wife and children in North Carolina. This goes on and on and on and on. It's really quite beautiful, everything that you've done. And I want to read a little bit about Mrs. Kathy Gibson. Because you're an athlete, or you were an athlete. That was is there anything that these two people don't do? You guys are like superhuman. Okay, Kathy Gibson brings to Tybro Publications, which is their company, 30 years of corporate marketing and sales experience. Kathy graduated from the University of Southern California with a Bachelor's of Science degree in business with an emphasis in marketing in 1982. A former world-class athlete in basketball and track and field and winner of the David X. Marks Scholar Athlete Award and Make-A-Wish Foundation Hall of Fame inductee, Kathy brings a level of excellence to Tybro to help build a global presence. I'm getting the chills as I read this, so I just want to say that because when I get the chills, it usually means something powerful.
Or maybe you just
Or maybe I
have
just need
gas.
to eat. I don't know. I'm only kidding. I'm just joking. We're being silly. As an athlete, Kathy used what she has recently learned was the 5th force of the divine force while competing and continues to use this in business and in life.
Yeah,
I know my
it's
husband
very
Joey wants to talk
fascinating.
about that with you too, because that's fascinating. In her own journey of inner enlightenment, Kathy has had several spiritual encounters, including one from God himself. I want to ask you because I was listening to you describe your Pentecostal experience, and I wondered if that was the communication with God that you were talking about. I was so happy to listen to that because I've heard so much about people speaking in tongues, and the way you described it crystallized it for me. Like I understood more clearly what is happening for not for all, obviously, but for most. And so I want to definitely get to that today. Finding the answers to oneself can be achieved only when one looks within. We all have the same potential. It is what we choose to do with it. A mother of 2 beautiful children, Michael and Tiffany, and the wife to one of God's true blessings. Kathy has received a full, complete life and able to serve others for the sake of sharing. So please, viewers and listeners, welcome Dr. Mitchell Gibson and his beautiful wife, Kathy Gibson, to our show on The Fringe. And thank you for joining us, you two.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We look forward to doing the show. Thank
Oh,
you.
good. I'm glad. I'm really glad. I know we were scrambling at the last moment because that's how Joey and I fly. So I'm glad. I'm glad that you could fly with us and join us. I don't even know where to start. I know that Joe and I were talking this morning, and I was like, of course, Joe and I are always really curious about really when the road forks in life. And we were reading about you, and then it said something about, that you were a medical doctor and you were doing your thing, and then you had these experiences. You had a few spiritual experiences that kind of got you on the journey. And of course, I want to know what those are. Like what happened to you? Because they had to be pretty significant in order for you to kind of jump tracks. And I think eventually you don't practice in the medical community anymore, or maybe you do, but it really had to be pretty powerful to kind of launch you in a different direction. So if you could tell me about that or tell us about that,
It's very exciting because I love when someone's really so entrenched in the modern belief systems in our science and our educational system, and then has something like this happen, and what it does to you, that you actually gave up your practice, right? You no longer practice psychiatry, yes?
That's right. When I was in my residency in Philadelphia, I had had a number of out-of-body experiences. But I attributed those mostly to being tired, working 100 hours a week. But there were still experiences where I could be in another body while looking down at my physical body. I had experiences of seeing clients who had passed and communicating with them. But I thought, okay, maybe that's interesting, but you spent all this time and money becoming a medical doctor. You want to practice medicine. So that's what I did. Then, after working in medicine about 10 years, some things started to happen in the medical profession while I was practicing that really got my attention, that maybe the universe has something different for you to do. And then one day, the universe slapped me upside the head with 2 barrels and a Glock weapon. So,
And what was that?
I was working with a client, and this client was a lady that I was treating her son for manic depression. He became manic depressive at the age of 8. So it was really kind of an unusual case of a child that had an adult's illness when he was just in grade school. But one day she brought her father in, and her father had been diagnosed with kidney cancer. And I thought, well, I don't really treat cancer. I'm a psychiatrist. Like, if he's depressed or anxious about it or can't sleep, I can give him something for it. But she said, no, I want you to pray for him. Okay, I'll pray for him. I'm not a preacher, but I really didn't realize how much I had been kind of controlled by the definitions I had given myself. So I prayed for the guy. And about 2 weeks later, the lady called back and said the cancer had disappeared.
Pray for us. Pray for us. Pray for us. I
love you, Dr. Gibson.
I want $7.6 million. And
right,
oh my
let
man
goodness, that's
finish.
fantastic. I mean, it's amazing. So go ahead. I had to. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
The cancer was still gone, so I thought maybe coincidence, maybe it's something that happens once in a while. But then my secretary has a sister. Her sister became ill with end-stage liver cancer. And end-stage liver cancer is a very, very progressive, very aggressive disease.
Yeah.
And my secretary took some time off, and I gave her a little cross that I prayed over to put on her sister's neck, maybe to comfort her a little bit. And she called me 2 weeks later and said her sister's cancer disappeared.
What?
She started gaining weight, her liver went down, the fluid in her abdomen went away, and she went back to work and was healthy as a horse. And Sharon, my secretary, came back. She was happy. She was crying. She said, "How did you do that?" And I had no clue how that happened.
What did you do when you prayed? What was it that you said, did, or thought and felt?
There was a prayer that I had learned from a rabbi that I met in Los Angeles, Rabbi Rob Burr, that was called the Anabakor. The Anabakor is a 2,800-year-old prayer. And the prayer, he said, and I've since later learned, has the power of God in it. And when you combine a certain level of meditative consciousness with praying, it changes things at the molecular level in the body.
Wow.
I have seen hundreds and hundreds of cases. I mean, those were the first 2 that really just hit me upside the head. And they told me that he wasn't just making this up. There was something to that. But those were the words that I said. The animal core.
And when you said them, did you infuse them with any intention, thought, feeling, or you just kind of?
Well, because as he's saying that as conscious when you
So you in a
combine it with your
meditative state?
consciousness.
Well, I had been meditating since I was about 10, 12 years old.
Okay, so you were out of the way when you were praying. You weren't just like your average person who picks up a prayer and just says a bunch of words. You were getting out of the way, so to speak, I'm sure you know what I mean.
I believe that there's a part of ourselves that once we meditate and focus consciousness development as our primary goal, a part of ourselves develops that can do things that look miraculous, but I don't really think it's miraculous anymore. I believe that there's a technology of consciousness that we're just now starting to understand that does the work for us, because I really can't say that my conscious self did that, but we've had well over 400 cases now where people get better just by prayer and other things that we do that are clearly just related to consciousness.
Wow. And do you teach people in your workshops how to do this, or you do it to them?
We have probably over a dozen workshops that we use this and other technologies. I also have about 400 to 500 students in different parts of the world that are learning to develop consciousness through meditation, certain practices using what I've learned.
Did you say 400 to 500?
That's right.
You mean 400 to 501?
It's so
I'm
great
there.
and so beautiful and so and you articulate it in such a way that doesn't make it
woo-woo-y.
yeah, it doesn't make it difficult, scary or vague or difficult to understand or really scary. It's scary to a lot of people.
It's a wonderful blend of spirituality and science.
Yes.
I love it.
I used to run a hospital. I was a chief resident, and I've done my fair share of research. So I was pretty hardcore in medicine and the academic side of medicine. So it took a lot to get my attention, and it took even more for me to start seeing that there's more to it than just what I was studying. So it took years for the universe to change the course that I was on. And I'm glad that it did, but it certainly didn't happen overnight. And it didn't happen overnight for my wife either.
Tell us about that, Kathy.
Well, my background is I'm a preacher's daughter. My father was a minister for over 40 years, and I grew up in the typical preacher's family where we went to
Baptist,
church,
right?
Baptist, Southern Baptist. So we went to church probably 3-4 times a week, and our parents were pretty strict on us, and we grew up believing certain beliefs. So for me to go from being a staunch Christian to start to incorporate spiritual beliefs, it took a lot of work on the inside in order for me to let go of a lot of things that had.
I imagine so.
Yes, it
Not
did.
an easy jump.
No.
Right.
No, but a good jump.
Yeah. How did your family react to that, or did they react to that?
That's enough said.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say they still talk with me, but they don't talk about church or religion or anything with me.
Right. And that's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, they just respect where I am, and I respect where they are.
Right.
Wow.
Very interesting. And so tell us, there's so many different things I
You're
wanted to talk to you about.
You're coming back next week, I hope.
Because, there's no way we're going to cover it all. But there was one of the things that both Joe and I were talking about this morning, and it's we really had never heard the term before. So I have to find it. So
Tony, I've heard the term.
Talks amongst yourselves while I find it. Now,
tell me about the title. While she looks for it, tell me about the title of your book.
Which one?
The Heart of Darkness?
No, not the Heart of Darkness.
So there was something called Darkness.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up now.
Well, because they didn't necessarily want to promote it, so I don't want to.
The First Darkness.
The First Darkness.
Okay.
What is that about?
Well, The First Darkness is a book I wrote about 2 years ago, and the cover was designed by a man in Indonesia, which I really like how it came out. And it is a book that goes into a romance between an angel and a human woman. The angel becomes sick with a disease. First of all, the angel is about 14 billion years old. And the angel is a gatherer, a being that patrols the worlds between, or the borders between the worlds, so that beings that are supposed to go from one world to another do what they're supposed to do. Well, after doing it for a long time, he got sick. He got an illness, quote unquote. And part of his attempt to heal himself involved him coming to Earth. He met a human woman, They fell in love, but in the process of falling in love, he learned that in order for him to become well from the illness, he had to use her in ways that were uncomfortable. And so the first darkness is the story of their romance, love hate relationship, and how they matured over time to become lovers, husband and wife, but also how their interaction, their work impacted people around them. So the first darkness is actually the name of the illness, and their relationship takes place over about 10,000 years.
Wow. Well, that's exciting.
And is it over reincarnational cycles they have this relationship, or?
That's right. She reincarnates probably during that time period over 100 times. But he stays in one place and he sends her into Earth from the dimension that he lives in to get certain things to try to cure himself of this illness. Eventually,
cool.
she learns to become an immortal by the journeys that she makes. And she has to make a decision if she's going to keep working for him as his servant or become an equal in the work of saving him and ultimately becoming an immortal being in the scheme of things.
Very
Well,
interesting. I love that.
Looking forward to reading it.
Yes, absolutely. The word that I wanted to find out about, what does attaching spirits mean? I don't think I've ever heard that before. I know you haven't, Joey.
I have a feeling I know what it means, but as negative energies sucking on to other people's energy, is that what you're...
Well, attaching spirits are actually people who have passed on and they stay earthbound and they tend to attach to people, places, or things. So there are actually people who passed on and they're attaching so that they can gather the energy of the person, the place, or the thing so that they can stay earthbound. So what's happening is there's more and more attaching spirits, more and more people who are passing are deciding to stay earthbound. In other words, most of them don't see the light and they don't know where to go or what to do. So they kind of stay around with things that they know of, things that they're fond of. For instance, if a person died and they were an alcoholic, more than likely they're going to attach to people who are hanging out in bars.
So does this come from the over-identification with self, either physically or mentally, and you forget that you're a conscious awareness? Is that why that happens? Because people get so entrenched they forget who they are?
Well, there isn't really much training in the concept of the afterlife. I mean, if you think about it, when you go to church, they say you're either going to go to heaven or hell. And with your a religion that believes in reincarnation, they say you're going to come back as another person. Well, exactly what are the mechanics of that? Where is hell? Where is heaven? How do you get there? And if you don't see the light, what do you do then? And that's what we're finding with a lot of people who are attaching spirits. Because of the lack of education, because of the system as it is, quote unquote, they're not seeing what they're supposed to see, and they're just hanging around Earth.
I heard recently, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about how as many ways as you're born, and as many different possibilities of the way we come in to this earth, that's as many experiences, potential experiences you can have when you die. And this person was saying it's very important to envision what it is. What is the afterlife? Because a lot of people think that when you die, it just goes black. And those people will tend to have that experience where they've never thought about what it's like. So when they actually pass, a lot of them don't even know that they've passed. They're still think that they're alive, and therefore they don't make that journey. So I just thought it was interesting that he was saying, it's important to muse. It's important to give your spirit guidance as to what you feel you want to experience, and also to say yes to the death process, and yes to the journey of evolution, and yes, because those people who start to believe that that happens, then they're more than likely able to be greeted by the loved ones and be assisted in that process and see the light. Does that make any sense to you?
What we found is that the afterlife is a lot more complicated than the physical world. There are more people. There are probably 1 billion times more people in the afterlife than there is in the physical world.
Makes sense.
The cities are more complicated. There are more states of existence that you can experience. The afterlife is a very complicated place. So that people, when they pass, they tend to see in part what they expect for a while, but then certain rules of the afterlife take over. For instance, what's in your consciousness, what's in your emotional state will determine where you awaken in the afterlife. You're a person who is sort of an agnostic, scientific, skeptical person, you tend to wake up in places filled with darkness and suffering because your mindset, your world view doesn't have much hope or joy in it. If a person is very joy filled, they've worked on their consciousness, they worked on connecting with higher forces, they tend to wake up in higher worlds. And we've seen that over and over and over with people that we work with, that how you prepare yourself for the next life really does impact what happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that what goes on in your consciousness affects your brain rather than what goes on in your brain affects your consciousness, because if you have all these emotions, and what do you tell like someone who says, well, the emotions are a result of the limbic system, what are you talking about? But so you're saying that the brain is really just an expression of what thoughts you think, and those feelings have their own vibration and consciousness or an invisible world, and the brain is just a physical reflection of that?
Well, let's look at consciousness for a second and what it does for you. Look at your physical body. Your physical body, your consciousness assembled your physical body in your mother's womb from a single-celled state to a state where it was weighed probably 7, 8, 9 pounds, and then it delivered itself from your mother's womb. From that point, it continued to assemble your body so that when you were 1 year old, you might have weighed 10 pounds, and when you reach 30 years old, you might weigh 200 pounds. And it assembles you from the materials that are available to it in the surrounding universe. It does that without you even understanding what happens when you eat. It also assembles your thoughts. You can't turn your thoughts on and off. You may be able to slow them down, but we don't have the capacity to stop them. Just try meditating 10 minutes and not thinking. You can't do it. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts and your consciousness create the reality and the matter that is around us. We tend to think that consciousness is something that's created in the brain. The brain actually the consciousness actually makes your brain from scratch.
Right. Well, and I guess isn't that the switch that we're making, the whole paradigm switch and the acceptance of more of a spiritual world? Because until this has been accepted, which is becoming more and more accepted every day because of neuroplasticity and things like this, that we're starting to understand that is the case, that we used to think that consciousness was just a byproduct of brain, and now we're realizing the brain is a byproduct of consciousness. And isn't that why spiritualism and science is coming together?
And I think in parts because many of the world's best physicists who are quantum physicists and quantum mechanic experts are seeing that consciousness predates matter and reality.
Consciousness predates matter and reality. Okay.
And that what they're finding that, and this is not metaphysics, this is physics, it is if you don't look at something, that thing doesn't exist. Now, when Einstein discovered this really baffled him. He said to himself, if I don't look at the moon, you mean it's not there? Well, all the experiments done in physics now say that reality exists as consciousness creates it. Which is hard for the average person to look and say, that doesn't make sense. But it does. I mean, that's quantum physics. That is reality.
It's wonderful. Because I can't explain it like that.
You guys are going to be joining us again tonight.
Come visit us. Come visit us, please. No, I can't. I mean, it's so nice to hear it articulated. Stuff,
so
that kind of
so
knowledge or
yeah.
wisdom that you kind of feel. It feels like it's right. It makes sense and makes sense in my mind, and it makes sense in my being. So thank you for that explanation.
That movie, What the Bleep, really articulated it beautifully. It was one of the first movies that showed people, the average educated person, that physics makes a difference in life. It actually explains the phenomenon of consciousness better than biology does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really beautifully done.
It makes me think of Bruce Lipton's book as well. When you talk about biology and consciousness, I just love it. The Biology of Belief.
Yes, beautifully written.
Yeah, and you actually just described it, I think, better than What the Bleep, because I think for people who really have never thought about it before, I think What the Bleep was a little bit so there's someone like you, it made sense, but it was a little bit confusing to others that saw it.
I think people were confused by it. But I think it also blasted open a lot of awareness, potentially, of those concepts. I don't know that it really gave anybody a full understanding, but it certainly was the first. It was an important movie on that level, I think.
Don't yell at me, please.
I'm giving my husband a dirty look. Like, how could you not know that? I don't want you guys to go away because I have so many questions. But this is just a question that I have, because we did a broadcast last week on. Well, the two of us were just talking, and somehow we ended up talking about the phenomena, which I don't think it's a phenomenon, the ETs, and people are really becoming quite aware that they've been here for a long time, potentially. And of course, you're seeing it in your mainstream media, and everyone's talking about it. And the more you talk about it, the more you realize most people, a big percentage of people, have had their own experiences. So, of course, we've been, reading and listening and YouTubing and, So my question to you is, I know I saw a video where you were talking about tall blue beings from Sirius B, but I just wondered if you could give us an overview, both of you, as to what you think it all looks like in terms of visitors' presence from elsewhere here, and how long, and what are they like, and are they physical? Are there many different levels and dimensions where they reside in and on? Does that make sense?
And also about your information or your experience with those giant blue beings. What
if you will.
If you will.
Well, that person took some information that we had presented in a seminar called The Living Soul and turned it into, actually I thought it was a fairly well done video that's on YouTube. But blue beings were really my first introduction or initiation into alien entities. And it started actually when I was about 5 years old. I used to go into a field that was maybe half a mile from my home that I grew up in. And in this field, there was a clearing that was surrounded by a beautiful grove of pine trees. And so as a little kid, I used to go sleep in this area. And I would do this almost daily until I left home for college. But during this time, I thought I was just going out in this field and playing and sleeping. What I eventually learned is that I was on a ship, or actually a series of ships, interacting with beings that were very tall, that had blue skin, that glowed and levitated. I thought that I was making it up, but then I realized you're spending probably half your days in a field and nobody's missing you. Nobody's coming to look for you. And when I grew up, they stopped when I left home and left the field, but they started again when I was in Philadelphia I was living in Mount Airy, which is sort of north of Germantown in Philadelphia. And in the apartment, one of these blue beings appeared in my apartment. And I was there by myself, and I saw the being, and it was maybe 1 o'clock at night, and I just wasn't willing to accept that this being was in my apartment, probably 8-9 feet tall, floating, naked, very well built. And I thought, okay, there it goes, Gibson, you're crazy now. And that's how it started, the adult interaction with these beings who probably had been interacting with me from the time that I was a small child.
Now, do you think there was some guiding hand that guided you into becoming a doctor? So when you did, now that you're doing what you're doing now, you'd be more, you considered more credible? Because, if you weren't a doctor, if you didn't have the experiences that you did, people would just, chalk it up as you're a nut, But right. Because you're so articulate and so intelligent and so educated and you seem as grounded
very,
as anyone I've ever spoken to, then it kind of makes people go, all right, my mind's open to this now.
Or I'll be a little bit more open.
More open. Do you think that's kind of why you're here?
Yeah, I believe that these beings guide the entire human race. If it were not for some force guiding our race, we'd still be eating our meat raw in a cave. Somebody had to help us go from that sort of primitive state of consciousness and existence to making spaceships and building the iPad. Somebody helped us. And I don't think that I'm the only person that they help. I believe that they will identify people, and certain people will get pushed toward being a doctor or an engineer or a mechanic or radio show host. And I think that they guide us to do what needs to be done so that the human race can evolve and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I agree.
And that woman you found in our bedroom last week,
No,
she was one of them. She
because
she
Dr.
had
Gibson,
she had
my
tan
husband
paint on.
said that she was an alien, and she looked like I don't know, she looked like a Playboy bunny. That's what she looked like,
but
but
she's
he
from the
insisted that she was an alien, and I
She puts on this makeup to look like she's normal.
Oh.
Yeah, she's very blue.
Honey.
She's very blue underneath it all.
About that, check his credit card receipt.
Oh my gosh.
His charges go too.
What did he say? No, it's to me. I have to tell you, this is like where it's all at. I feel that this is a whole show in and of itself. But that's
Okay,
and where
I have a
was
question.
wait, where were
Okay, you
where
have
were
a
the
question?
beings from? The blue beings are from Sirius.
Well, they're actually not from this dimension.
Ah,
They come into this dimension through the Sirius star system, but they're actually not from this dimension.
surely you can't be serious. I had to. Don't call me serious or Shirley.
A fifth dimensional location.
Really? So they kind of they can materialize and dematerialize.
That's right. That's right. We are not the first nor the last statement in consciousness in this world. We believe that everything is third dimensional, but with my experiences of traveling out of the body and meeting other beings, we're kind of like children in the universe. And in large part, we're kind of imprisoned here because we don't really understand much about interacting with higher beings, and we tend to ridicule and start war and abuse at every chance that we get. And until we outgrow that, they really haven't let us leave this place in any kind of number. But they do let us visit, they visit us, etc. And that's, I think, where those experiences have their importance. They give us an introduction to a wider universe out there.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
Did you have when you started leaving the body? Did you have these? Did it start off with the I think it's what they call tonic and inhibition, where the body cuts off the muscles activity. So when you're dreaming, you don't jump out of bed, and then people wake up frozen, but they can't move their bodies. They open their eyes and they feel they're awake, but they can't move their bodies because the body hasn't turned off that switch yet. But when that has happened to me, I had an out-of-body experience. I started floating when I was a child. Is that what happened to you, or did you have you were just kind of relaxing and it happened, or you were meditating and it happened?
It used to just happen to me spontaneously when I was a kid. I would be sitting in class, for instance, when I was in the first grade, I'd get bored, and I would just pop out of my body and float around the school.
Wow.
And it really started becoming more commonplace when I hit puberty. And during that time period, I would float around the neighborhood for not such good reasons. I would look for the cute girls in the neighborhood, and I would follow them, et cetera, et cetera.
Were you able to verify where you were after the fact?
Say again?
Were you able to verify that you were actually there after the fact?
Well, I knew I was there because I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing.
You can actually physically do things, or just watch people?
I was watching.
And you knew for sure you weren't imagining that?
Right. I was not imagining things. And the first thing that I really faced when I became an adult with out-of-body experiences, how much of this is imagination, how much of this is what we can call real? And I found that the concept of the imagination takes on a whole different precedence when you leave your physical body.
It becomes real, yeah.
Anything that you can imagine when you're out of your body, for instance, if you imagine going to Paris, before you know it, you're standing in Paris. If you can imagine seeing yourself when you're 10 years old, you can be watching yourself as an adult, watching yourself at 10 years old. So the consciousness of the out-of-body state is different than the consciousness of the in-body state. Mm-hmm. Imagination takes on a whole different sort of force in that state that you have to be careful with.
Now, the attaching beings, do they affect the people they attach to?
They do affect the person they're attached to. And if they're just attached to a person's aura, they can change some of your thoughts and things that you are willing to do or things that you might want to do. But if they're attached to your body, say they got into your liver or your
Wow.
digestive tract, someplace big where you won't notice that they're there, they can affect your body and it can have illnesses in your body. So
Wow,
they-
that's amazing.
My question is, how would we?
Michelle's boyfriend. He had a long bout with leukemia.
It was a
I
blood
believe.
disease.
I think it was leukemia.
It was a form of leukemia.
And he went to a shaman, and he looked at him, and he said there was an attachment on him because all the people had died in the hospital. Someone attached to him, and when he helped him remove it, he said he was a different person, different thoughts, and so that's amazing. And he's a very reasonable guy. In fact, he was shocked that he was even telling me this. But is that what you're talking about? That's what happens. I'm sorry.
No, it's
they're
okay.
all mine, Tony. You're done. You're done.
I got 14 questions, and we
finished.
have a minute.
Oh, that's right. It's 11:50. I keep forgetting we don't go to 12.
Well, go to ask Tony if we have a little bit more time today.
I hope he's listening. So I'm sorry. So what was your? So that's what we're talking about,
I just wanted to
right?
know if.
I can't believe we're out of time.
I know,
I'm
it's crazy.
gonna hurt
I just
somebody.
wanted to know how, other than going to a shaman and having the shaman tell you that you have that, how would one know that that's happening?
Well,
to
at
them?
our center, we have a machine that's an aura machine that will actually show a person that there's attaching spirits attached to them.
Really?
Yes, where you can see them for yourselves. And believe me, that's a game changer when people see it for themselves. So you can actually see a being attached to you or multiple beings attached to you.
That's like that thought form healing. Is that what that is, Joe? That
Well, they're removing thought forms, not necessarily
beings.
Yeah, it's a little
Okay.
bit different.
my mind goes right to when that woman said, when you were on your healing quest, that woman said that there was
Thought forms. Yeah.
said that there was somebody negative. There were negative beings attached to me.
Yeah.
And that was the first and only time that I've heard that. So
That was
of course
me. They were talking about. So tell me when your seminar is. I'm going to be there.
We actually have a seminar coming up next Saturday on the 17th. We're going to be in New York at the Sheraton LaGuardia Hotel, and we're presenting a seminar called the Nephilim Codex, and it is going to blow everyone away. The information he's going to present is just unbelievable.
Is it going to be recorded?
It's not going to be recorded. It's not going to be recorded.
Not going to be recorded.
And
okay.
are you having another one, or is that the only one you're having for a while?
But we've had a real problem of people pirating our stuff. So we record it, then they make a DVD and sell it for $5.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So when's the next one
So
you're
how
doing
would we
after
get-
that?
how would we get to-
Yeah, how do they find you, and how do they get to the seminar, and then what's the next seminar for me? I'm getting.
They can find all the information on us on our website, tybro.com, tybro.com, and to go under upcoming events, and you'll see a listing of where we're going to be, when, and how to register. After the Nephilim Codex, we're going to be in New Orleans at the Hyatt. We're going to present After, which is going to be a presentation on the afterlife. And we're going to go into great detail on what's going on with the afterlife, what people can learn to present, and how they can actually find a way to have a better afterlife than just with their normal consciousness.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, because so many people are afraid to go there, and they don't realize that it behooves them to go there, because it'll change their experience after they pass. So that's probably a very important thing for people to be exposed to.
Oh, we're gonna have them next week again.
Okay. We'll be in touch with you guys if you'll consider coming back on the show when you guys get back from your seminar. We would love to have you on and maybe pick a topic and really go through
into it.
That would be really wonderful for us if you would do that or consider doing
Sure,
that.
we would love to.
Great.
You
Thank
guys
you.
are fantastic.
It went by so quickly.
I
know,
know. I
it
can't believe
always
I'm looking at the
does.
time.
It's
We're 3 minutes
crazy.
over, and I guess they're liking it too, because they said that's fine that we went over 3 minutes. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to you both. And
Dr. Mitchell, Kathy Gibson.
big hugs, and continue on the good work. And we'll be in touch with you. And please stay in touch with us. Let us know. Keep us posted as to what you're doing and where. And we'll plug you on the show.
And we're going to contact you. We can contact you on the. Well, we have your.
Well,
number.
we have all.
Where
of
do
your
we
information.
find you? We have their.
Also, we'll send you obviously everything from the show, and you'll get a copy of this, and you'll get to get all the links and stuff like that. So you'll have it.
And tonight, keep your elbow away from my face. You keep hitting me in the face with the elbow. So that's just, let's just.
Dr. Mitchell Gibson and Kathy Gibson, thank you so much for being on our show. We look forward to talking and seeing and speaking with you soon.
It was great having you.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday at 11 o'clock.
Okay. Do we have a time to let people know?
And
No?
You can find us at...
Well, you can find us, send
don't
us an
know.
email
I
at
don't know where to find us.
www.onthefringeshow.com. We are on Facebook, On the Fringe with Antoinette and Joe. We are on Fringe Talk Radio on Twitter. And, thank you for joining us.
Thank
This
you.
has been really fun.
Take care, everybody.
Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network.
Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of hell.
A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UENradio.com.